On the cutting edge of anomaly research, you are about to experience The Evidence with your host, 3D pioneer and image analyst with Mars X3D, E.W. Gannett.
Are you a skeptic or a cynic? Hi there. This is your buddy Dave over at Mars X3D, and that's a question that's worth answering. You see, a skeptic is a walking question mark, and that's a healthy thing. We should be questioning everything in our lives, especially things that are hard to understand or maybe seem to be tied into government edicts or whatever the case may be. Skepticism is fine and it's a useful tool in science. Being a cynic, however, is a different matter. A cynic refuses to believe. Their mind is made up, and they will mock or deride or otherwise abase any efforts of new research or new developments, wherever they may be, because they're cynical people. And that's not very useful, is it? What a way to live your life as a sour pickle. I'm a skeptic too, as a matter of fact. As you probably know, I got into this because my skill set, I felt, was sufficient to totally debunk this Mars anomaly thing once and for all. And of course, I found out different. Anyway, all you splendid weirdos out there, you know who you are, who've been with me a while. You yourselves know that sometimes we come across things that later on prove to be just rocks when we get better evidence, when we get better imagery. It's easy enough to make that mistake, but we also need to be skeptical enough to consider the fact that only a percentage of what we're calling anomalies may actually be anomalies. But at what point do we discount anomalies altogether? If, let's say, 80% of them are completely fake, they're pareidolia, misidentification, or bad imagery, or just rocks. If 80% of them are that, what about the 20% that you can't debunk? Are those legitimate? Is it worthwhile to continue to pursue because of the implications of that 20%? I myself have had any number of anomalies that I could have sworn were legitimate, later debunked because of better imagery, or maybe because I just viewed them in 3D finally and realized, oh, it's not what I thought it was. So anyway, that's the case not only now, but in any of the episodes that we do, that this information may be spurious, but it's presented with the best of intentions and from a skeptical viewpoint, I might add. Now, yeah, I'm biased. I've seen enough evidence at this point to be firmly convinced that Mars had at least one ancient civilization, possibly more. And nobody's going to shake me out of that fact. I've seen enough. But they can go ahead and disprove 99% of the anomalies I've found. That 1% is a kicker, isn't it? And if you're a skeptic, a true skeptic, you'll say, okay, what about that 1%? Do we investigate further? If this is true, what does that mean? Well, I'll let you make up your own mind, because that's what we do here at Mars X3D. So let's have a skeptical look at a few items. Sometimes we run into items that are borderline, not really in-your-face anomalies with clearly non-fractal lines, but then still having a feature here and there that raise a question mark. This is an example that fills the bill from Percy 78. Is this just a rock? Probably, but bear with me just a minute as I point out a couple of question marks. Let's start with that platform it's sitting on. Was this a base for whatever the shaped stone represents? Maybe part of the paving from an ancient street? If so, it's definitely seen better days. The constant thermal erosion and contracting and expanding is gradually reducing it to a pile of rubble. But there's still enough there to make out what might have been a square shape at some point in the past. The shape of the so-called planter is evocative as well. Kind of, I don't know, it looks like a craft of some kind, but that's almost certainly not the case. But what gets me is that perfect circle towards the left end. That circle is really an unusual feature for something that's supposedly entirely natural. But here's the kicker for me. There's a hollow opening in the top that appears to be square, which is why I immediately thought of a planter. I mean, I'd love to have this bizarre bit of rock in my backyard and load up that square opening with some good old Iowa dirt. It'd be great for sea oats or ferns or even a ficus, if you don't mind me saying so. Anyway, I just wanted to put this one to bed, so thanks for bearing with me, and let's all pretend we never saw it. You know, there are so many cubes and blocks in Jezero Crater that it's hardly worth pointing them out. But we know from the staggering reams of data our probes have collected since 1965 that Mars experienced a cataclysmic nuclear attack an estimated 250,000 years ago. And one of the sure signs of nuclear detonation is the vitrification of stone. That's why I decided to share this one with you. Assaulted by the sun-like thermonuclear heat of a fusion bomb, stone can vitrify, that is, become a liquid. The surfaces of vitrified stone are melted into glassy smoothness. The rock gets a slumped look like you see here as it begins to melt. Looks like a cube of melting jello, doesn't it? I'm counting 9 right angles in this cube, more than enough to file it in the non-fractal category. And as you recall, non-fractal means non-natural, as in something created through intelligent agency. I only hope humanity is intelligent enough to avoid the same fate. In another part of Neil's GMAC of Percy 90, we have this nice quarter section standing out there in the sand. The shape alone is enough to warrant a closer look at it, but when I zoomed in, I found this. We see a triangle showing the 45, 45, 90-degree relationships in the sides, making it an angle-based right triangle for those of you who've had 8th grade geometry. In different lighting, this may prove to be simply natural impact shearing or thermal fracturing of the rock face. But this particular exposure gives the impression of a deliberate engraving of the surface. And this particular kind of triangle is something we have found more than once, seemingly engraved into various rocks. Let me show you what I mean. Here's one I found in Curiosity 540. And here's another one I found in Curiosity 1488. It's interesting to note that the mathematics of geometry remain the same regardless of the intelligence that understands it. So, is this a message of some kind, like the ones we put on the Voyager's golden disk? A message in a bottle, so to speak, saying, hey, we weren't Stone Age troglodytes, we understood the mathematical relationships as well as the next alien. By the way, troglodyte is your word for the day. It would have been just as easy for me to say cave dweller rather than troglodyte, but then I wouldn't have any fun pretending to be a pseudo-intellectual. And no one likes a fun stopper. Pipes seem to pop up on a fairly regular basis around Mars, and this just might be another one from a GMAC of Percy 90 by Neil Spence. What caught my eye is the straight shape you see inside the target box. Not only is it straight, it's cylindrical. And of course there's that nifty flange on the right end. It even glints in the sunlight as if it were made out of metal. That brings to mind a pipe Laszlo Shabalix found in Curiosity 1601, one I shared with you last year. Take a look. Can you say public works? Sure you can. There are lots of other examples, but I shared them with you just recently in another episode, so we'll let the train roll on. This cylindrical shape caught my eye. It's not very good resolution. Please tell us again, NASA, about those high-res Z-cams that are supposed to be real game changers. Anyway, it's not very good resolution, so it'll be blurry when we zoom in, but it is worth checking out. I'm tempted to compare this to an aircraft fuselage, not only for the cylindrical shape, but also because it seems to have a wing sticking out towards us. That strange opening on the left has a spherical mass with 4 attach points, 3 of which go to the inside diameter of the tube, and the one closest to us continuing past the edge and bending around to run along the surface. Strange, right? Dialing back the gamma and the exposure did no good. Everything is overexposed and whited out, so this is all the detail I could recover. You know, none of this really makes any sense. Whether it's a rock or an artifact, this one needs a closer look. But will NASA drive Percy over there to take some decent images? Well, if they do, we'll never hear about it, and especially we will never see their classified collection of Martian artifacts. Jim West glommed onto this one in Nev's GMAC of Percy 92. You can even see what I call the awning inside the green target. There were also 2 others I found in this same shot. A box to the right of Jim's awning, and then that nice square asking for attention down in the right-hand corner. Let's take a look at that one first. Is this something that's been carved into a rock, or is it a mechanical relic? As we observe the many raised lines forming right angles all over the front, we might also notice a raised oval cartouche on the right side, with 2 hemispheres neatly placed within. Couple that with the latch-like mechanism inside the square, and I'd have to lean more towards this being a mechanical relic. It's frustrating, isn't it, that with Percy's highly touted 4K Z-cams, we're still being issued crappy, low-res JPEGs. But that's just NASA protecting us poor, sheep-like fools from the utterly devastating knowledge that intelligent life might exist elsewhere in our solar system. Anyway, let's go have a look at that awning. This is an interesting image, and you're probably seeing the same things I'm seeing. Let's start with these 2 items. That's a very nice regular rectangular block underneath Jim's awning. And there's another one in back and to the right. In fact, this entire area seems to consist of shattered and eroded building components, which makes me wonder what that awning is all about. The overall shape of it gives the impression of being made of metal that's been bent into the shape we see here, whether by circumstance or by design. Then there's this nicely crafted box just to the right that has all the non-fractal properties one could ask for. For those of you new to the channel, let's do a quick inventory so you can understand why I consider this to be a legitimate artifact. Starting with the overall shape, we find it to be a clearly defined box-like shape, complete with at least a half dozen different right angles, with more implied by its structure. Look at the end closest to us. That's what we call bilateral symmetry, meaning if you draw a line down the middle, it's the same on both sides of that line. Notice the gambrel roof shape of the front, with equal angles on the top left and top right. Also, notice the circular item in the center, what might possibly be a latch of some sort. Then you have that even white border around the perimeter. The top is a jumbled mess, probably broken up by the cataclysm that obliterated Mars. The point is, it's a given that each of these items we just listed can occur naturally. But when they're all in context with one another, it's a different matter. It's the mathematics of intelligent agency. And the shorthand term for that is non-fractal. And one final note. In subsequent Percy images, this box is completely absent, as in not there, no indication it was ever there, missing in action. The awning is still there in subsequent images, but not the box. Now, did the box move away on its own? Did NASA use Photoshop's content-aware tool to make it disappear? Or is this image, the original one where we can see it, is this the one that's fake? You know, it calls into question everything coming down from Perseverance, as well as hinting at the crazily obtuse agenda NASA seems to be executing. Although I will continue to present Percy images, going forward, it'd be a good idea to take any of the images from this mission with a handful of salt. Well, that's it for this week's episode, and for those of you who would like to help keep this channel ad-free, even $1 a month will go a long ways towards that goal. And my sincere gratitude goes out to our patrons and our contributors. Thank you for your generous support. Don't forget to click that bell when you subscribe, and also a thumbs up sure would be appreciated. To all my friends and unique weirdos out there, you know who you are. Stay safe and stay weird. Until then, this is your buddy Dave over at Mars X3D. Be well.